So in this episode of Viral Rewind, we're looking at the Bacros Windows virus. Now this virus is 32-bit and works on both Windows NT and Windows 9X systems. So this video is going to be a little bit longer because we have to look at two different operating systems because Bacros behaves differently on those two operating systems. So we've got a Windows 98 machine here that we're going to look at it on first. And then I've got another machine with Windows 2000, which is Windows NT based, and we'll look at it on there. So let's look at it here on Windows 98. So however you get the Bacros virus, it looks pretty innocent. It looks like a text file. And, maybe you wouldn't know that, but, you run it. And it looks like a text document. It just has Bacros, Bacros, Bacros over and over and over. But look here at the file. It says read my. Okay, that doesn't look like Bacros to me. It says read my and not Bacros. Why is that? Well, you might think it looks innocent, but as you can see on the side here, and if we look in properties, it actually says it's an application, not a text file. And it's 348 kilobytes in size. There's the MS-DOS saying it's Bacros.exe. Text documents always have the extensions .txt on the end of them, so that's a clue right there that this is not an actual text file. But it is using the icon of a text file to throw you off. And again, if you did not have, let's go here to folder options. Come on. If you did not uncheck the hide file extensions for known file types, you would not see this .exe extension on the end of it telling you it's an application. So anyway, we've run Bacros. So what has it done? Well, it's dropped a couple of files to the Windows 9X system here, including one that only happens on 9X systems and not NT, which we'll get to. So let's go to our C drive and look in the Windows directory. So it has dropped some files here. One of those is this msdosdrv.exe. This is one copy of the virus. And as you can see, it has hidden the original msdosdrv.txt, the actual text file. The other file that Bacros drops is in the Windows System folder called mssys.exe. Again, this is another copy of Bacros as well. But MS-DOS Drive and MSSys do different functions depending on the command switches they're given by Bacros. That determines what they do upon system startup. Again, we will get to that when we start looking at the dates for the virus payloads. The other file that Bacros drops requires us to restart the computer because we need to get that MS-DOS Drive executable to run at Windows startup so that it will actually drop the other file. So let's go ahead and get the computer restarted so that I can show you what that other file it drops is. So we've booted back up into Windows 98 here after restarting. So let's go back into the My Documents folder. And what do we have here? We have a new file, a Word document called wordinfo.doc. Oh, and notice the author says ancient. Yep, this is the dropped file that MS-DOS Drive drops when the system restarts. So what it has done is it's actually dropped a Word97 macro virus with the same name as the original virus. So Word97 macro Bacros, or W97M-Bacros if you were wanting to get the technical term, but yes, it drops a Word97 macro virus on Windows 9X systems. Again, this is not going to happen on Windows NT because when we get to that, you'll notice there's going to be some problems with MS-DOS Drive trying to do this. So it drops a macro virus, and the purpose of that macro virus is to help Bacros replicate. It basically looks for floppy drives and or CD-ROMs if the computer has the ability to spread onto other systems. And we'll look at that when we get around to it. It should have also dropped the file. Let's see. Is it here? Yes, it is. It also drops it in the Windows directory. There it is again. So not only do we get the Bacros virus, but we also get its macro virus as well on Windows 9X. So let's go ahead and start looking at the Bacros payloads. So the first one that we are going to look at is what it does to text files. So we need to change this to the 2nd of the month, and we'll restart. Alright, getting back into Windows 98 here after restarting it on the 2nd of the month. We go into Windows directory, and let's take a look at some of those text files. As you can see, we now have an active setup log.exe and a hidden active setup log.txt. Same thing happened down here. There's an executable, a hidden text file. Let's keep on looking. We already know about MS-DOS Drive. We don't care about that. That's the virus. Oh, here's another one. Looks like a log file that got also changed around. And here's another log file that's had it happen to right there. So what Bacros does on the 2nd of any month is it scans the system for text files, and what it does is it creates a copy of the virus from the mssys.exe that I showed you, and then renames it to the same as the text file, and then takes the original text file and hides it, so that if we didn't have this selected, and then we show it again, you would never see the original text file. And again, if we also took off the file extensions, then you wouldn't even know that that's an executable either. So if you remember the video I did on the Sys.exe virus, this is acting very similar to what that does. Basically, Bacros creates a copy of itself as an executable, hides the original text file, but then links to that text file so that any time you open it, it opens the original text file, except that it's also opened a copy of Bacros up in the process. So that's what it does on the 2nd of the month. Let's look at another date here. Let's look at December 6th, which happens to be Finland's Independence Day. So we'll move to December 6th, and we'll restart again. Booting back up into Windows here. Oh, look, our background changed. So now we have a background of the Finnish flag. Apparently this virus was developed in Finland, or the person that made it had some issue with the Finnish, but December 6th is the Finnish Independence Day, so it naturally changes it to Finland's flag of the desktop background, and because I've got it set to stretched, it takes up the whole background on here. So it does that on December 6th. So let's try a different date. Let's go to the 10th of any month. Now let me change this to December 10th. Again, it doesn't matter which month, we're just going to use the 10th, and we're going to restart again. And loading into Windows now on the 10th. Notice this msssys is actually loaded in the taskbar here. It shows you it's doing some background operations, but let's see what happens on the 10th here. Ooh, it's opening Word97 up. So what it's actually doing here, if you look from the top, just before it changed, you actually saw it change a couple of times there, it opened up the wordinfo.doc, which is the Word97 macro virus that Bacros dropped. And you momentarily saw there the normal ... which is the global Word document that it uses for when you create any new document. So what it has just done there is infected the global template for Word. So anytime you create a new document or anything like that, you're going to have the Bacros macro virus added right onto it from the start. So if we go into Tools and look at macros, you see all these macros here. You have an auto close, auto open, copy my, run my, and another thing here. So what all these do is it's checking when Word closes a document, when it opens a document, and then it also has copy operations and run operations for spreading to other computers. And what it does there, and let's see if we can look at one here. Oh, I didn't want to use the run. I wanted to look at the edit. Hold on. Edit. There we go. So we got the macro loaded here. Let me scroll down. So we got different things that jump to the copy operations and things like that. And we get to here. One of the things it also does is it automatically types the text "I am Madman" and changes the application's username to Ancient. So if you saw when we first looked at the document that it showed that the author was Ancient, this is where it's getting that from. So here is the copy and run my operations, and what you can see it does is it looks for a floppy disk and then it copies that infected sys file. It also is called Sys.exe in the system directory, and then copies it to the floppy drive as readmy.exe, and then it will also check if that program, infected Bacros program, is being run off of a floppy disk in another computer, and then it will run the shell commands from there. And that's pretty much how this Word97 macro virus that Bacros drops works. We got one more payload to look at, and it takes place on Christmas Day, so December 25th. Restart the computer, and this is going to be probably the last restart for this Windows 98 machine. Just waiting for Windows to come up here. So it's December 25th, we booted up the computer. And everything kind of looks normal at the moment. Oh, I just lost some icons. Oh, I've just lost more icons. What is happening here? System's going a little sluggish. Oh, now my computer and the menu doesn't look right. Oh, I am missing some files in the root directory here. What's Windows look like? If I can open it, there it is. Oh, we got a lot of files missing off the Windows directory here. What about the system? The system has got a lot less files in it too. that can't be too good. Still got sound, but we are missing a lot of files here. We're missing stuff out of my documents. It's even deleted its own macro virus. I've lost stuff in the start menu. Blank, 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 blank. Oh, the system's getting slow at times. So what has happened here? Well, what Bacros does on the 25th, which is Christmas Day, it runs a file deletion payload. So that's what you saw happening. It was deleting all our icons, files, system files, anything that it wanted. But again, as you see, it doesn't tend to delete everything. It just deletes the majority of files. You still lose your personal documents, you still lose a lot of system files. Essentially, you're going to have to restore from backups, or you're just going to have to do a fresh install at this point. Because if you restart the computer now, you're not booting back into Windows. And as you can tell, I just lost my sound, and I just lost all the Office shortcuts. So it's still deleting files. However, I do have a second hard drive on here. Bacros does not touch 2 or more partitions or 2 or more hard drives on the system. It only targets stuff on the C drive. So everything you have on other drives or partitions are okay. It's just the C drive. And you see we've lost our config sys and autoexec.bat and a couple more files here now. So it's still running its deletion payload. So again, if we try to restart the computer now after all those files are deleted, it's not going to boot up. And as you see, we're missing highmemory.sys, the double buffer, the installable file system manager, and command.com. So Windows 98 can no longer boot now. But anyway, that's it for looking at Bacros on the Windows 9X system. We're now going to transfer over to Windows 2000, which is NT, and look at how Bacros affects Windows NT systems. So here we are with the Windows NT side that we're looking at for the Bacros virus. And this again is Windows 2000 that we're running. And I'm going to show a couple of things which you can already see that are the same as on a Windows 9X system. We've got the finish flag that shows up when it's December 6th. If I look at my Windows NT folder, I can see that we have our companion virus set up like we had on Windows 9X as well, where we've got the executable version of Bacros tied to the original text file. So those features still remain the same between Windows 9X and Windows NT. The file deletion payload is also still the same. We'll do that again at the end of this one, but right now we're looking at stuff on Windows NT. So the other thing I didn't get to show was the Windows Registry, because this is how the MS-DOS Drive and msssys executables that Bacros drops runs on system startup. As you see, MS System here runs the msssys executable with the extension -D on it that controls that infected msssys executable file. And if we go down here to Windows Run, here's MS-DOS Drive in the Windows NT directory with the switch -T. Now again, as I mentioned on the Windows 9X side, we're going to see problems with this MS-DOS Drive executable trying to run, because remember, this is what generates that Word97 macro virus that Bacros also generates. So we'll see this on startup having an issue. But one of the things that we can see on Windows NT is that it also changes the GIF images. So I've looked up all the GIF images on here so we can kind of get an idea what some of these look like. You can kind of see them up in the corners there. See if we could find one that's got clouds or something. Well, you get the idea. These are all uninfected GIF images. So let's change this to the 1st. And it's the 1st of any month. It just happens to be December that I'm testing this in. Close Registry, close Windows NT, and let's restart. See what happens. Booting back into Windows 2000 here. And here's what I'm talking about with the MS-DOS drive on Windows NT systems. We get this MS-DOS drive IO error 103. Because Windows NT does not make use of MS-DOS like Windows 9X does, this MS-DOS drive program fails at trying to generate the Word97 macro virus. So we've changed it to, again, the 1st of any month, and I showed you all those GIF images before. So let's take another look at those GIF images. I gotta search for them here. It's just GIF. Let me see. And let's see, what do we got here now? And you notice the GIF image is now showing CoolJiffy. And I can look in the preview there. Every single one of them is all showing CoolJiffy now. So what Bacros does on the 1st of any month is it searches out all GIF images on the system and replaces them now with this CoolJiffy image, which is basically Finnish for Kill Jehovah. That's pretty much what it stands for. So the 1st of any month, all your GIF images now become this CoolJiffy. Something else I didn't show on the Windows 9X side is that the original Bacros virus, when you first run it, you can actually change the name of it for whatever you want it to say multiple times in that text. So I just happened to change it to subscribe on this one. And now we have subscribe, 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 subscribe multiple times, because you know you're watching this on YouTube and I know you want to subscribe. So that's something you can do with Bacros. So anyway, that's pretty much really about the only things different with the Windows NT side of it, is that CoolJiffy GIF file replacement, and again the MS-DOS drive not being able to work because NT doesn't support MS-DOS, so we don't get that, again, that Word97 macro virus. About the only thing left is to do to this system what we did on the Windows 9X side. Change this to the 25th of December, Christmas Day, and restart. Coming back in here to Windows 2000 for the last time in this video. Got that MS-DOS drive IO error once again. And I see the hard drive light going, and I see files disappearing. So just like on Windows 98 when it's Christmas Day the 25th, Bacros again runs its file deletion payload and we start losing stuff. And all our directories are empty already. Lost all our desktop icons. You see we're missing stuff from the C directory. Windows NT. And yeah, see where stuff's going away. Yeah, just deleted a whole bunch out of the Windows NT directory. The system's a little slow to respond. And as you can see, or I should say, here, yeah, I've lost my sounds already. So none of the sound files are on the system anymore. And the system is running a bit sluggish. I don't see the hard drive indicator going anymore, so I guess it's deleted all that it's going to. So just like before, if you choose to restart your computer after you've lost all these files, it's never going to boot into Windows 2000 again. In fact, I don't think we can even shut down Windows 2000 because the file it needs for writing is no longer present. So I'm going to have to do a hard reset here. Oh, no, it's going. Sometimes it will hang up there if a critical file is missing. But again, I should not expect this to boot up. And there you go. Windows 2000 cannot boot because the boot INI file is missing. And it's going to try to boot from the Windows NT folder. It fails there too, because it can't find the NTOS kernel executable. So, just like with Windows 98, you either got to restore from backups or do a whole clean install here of Windows 2000 if you want to get the system working again. So that's pretty much it for the Bacros Windows virus.